Hey Kayla,
Oh, this is exciting. I'm nervous.
how you doing?
I'm good. How are you? It's an honor to be here and an honor to finally sit down and talk with y'all.
You have experienced a stroke, fibromyalgia, chronic migraines. There was some brain damage apparently that had happened that you learned about from birth.
Yep.
You go through some depression, just a survivor. Really, really strong warrior. Where are you from originally?
So I'm from Minnesota, born and raised. I did spend a little time in Montana, which where my soul still runs free. If you've ever been to Minnesota, it's you get in the cities and it's like being in the cities, but then when you get up north or down south, it's more country-ish. So
Yeah.
um I mean, I like it, but I rather be in the country.
Okay. Country girl.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, I am. I was born and raised in here, Minnesota. I got married, what, 3 years ago, baby?
Well, congratulations. That's
Thanks.
still newlywed.
Yeah, it is kind of. I mean,
Kind of, yeah.
he's a pain in the butt. You'll hear him from time to time playing his video games over here. So,
Yeah.
um,
Before you know it, Nell and I have been together for 28 years. So before you know it, you'll be there.
I don't know about that one. No, just joking.
One day at a time, right?
One foot in front of the other.
That's right.
Yeah, I was born and raised here. And my symptoms pretty much started when I was really young, like really young. I remember it was pretty much my legs were the first things that I noticed that was really bad, and that were just out of control.
Mhm.
And then it was then that's when fibro started really kicking in. So,
So you started now the symptoms that you're talking about, was that related to what you went through at birth? You were just
well,
or
birth was interesting. I it was a Vietnam doctor that delivered me, and basically put me on the table, my mom on the table, and said, "We're having her right now." Um, and if it wasn't for that doctor, I probably wouldn't be here today. So that was, and they lost me and my mom completely.
no,
Um,
really?
yeah, they did. Um, I was gone for more than 5 minutes, and so was my mother. So we both have brain damage. Um, so it, and she has fibro. It's in my family. So, and my grandma had it before my grandma even knew what it was. Before they even knew what it was. So, um, it's been in our family.
And so that's kind of just impacted you in terms of just as you've gone through growing up, developmentally in any way, or like how did you have you how do you think that that's been maybe different than your peers in terms of, okay, that was because of what happened at birth versus not, like what was your experience in terms of how that's impacted your life, do you think?
It really kind of impacted a lot. I had a learning disability. I think my learning disability impacted my life a lot too. Um, and I think the fibro really impacted, not, it wasn't so bad in high school.
Mm-hmm.
Once I got out of high school, because I was always active in high school, I was doing basketball, sports, horseback riding, all of that. So I really was very active. So my fibro really wasn't that bad in high school, but it was there, and it would rear its head once in a while. Not as much as it does now. Like, it's an everyday occurrence that it does now. Um, and I kick my butt sometimes because I don't do much of a lot anymore. Um, because of that fact. So it's hard to, just live day to day with just so much. And now I even might have a diagnosis of seizures. We don't know yet.
So
So
was the symptoms with fibromyalgia, is that what you said, go back, and when you were talking about what you experienced when you were growing up, you always kind of had that
yeah, so I had
feeling
restless
like,
legs really bad when I was growing up, to the point where I couldn't walk. My dad had to carry me into my room sometimes, to the point where I was crying hysterically. And I remember um, my laying in my parents' bed and screaming because I was in so much pain because my legs were on fire. Um,
mhm.
and so if it feels like, somebody's taking, a barbed wire fencing and just going back and forth on your, that's the only way I can describe it. And um, it just, it's, it was terrible. And um, it infected a lot of my life. It affected, my running, because my ankles are tight from my
Mhm.
birth. So I mean, I there's just little things that will pop in and out. Um, Hi, mom, I see you. um, and she'll probably peek in and tell me, "Oh, honey, you forgot about this." So,
Yeah,
um,
hey mom. Shout out to mom.
um, yeah, but yeah, it was mostly my whole life. I just knew, and the doctors, told my mom, if you know fibro more than we do, if you think she's got fibro. So I finally, I think at the age of probably 20, I was diagnosed medically, but I had fibro my whole entire life. So
So,
and
one of the things I'm kind of curious about how that's kind of fit into all of that is stroke. So tell me about that.
honestly, we have no idea. Um, it really just happened. It is in my family blood. Um, but at the age of 33, that's
Is that
that's
when it happened?
yeah, it happened at the age of 33. I'm now 35,
So just
right?
fairly recently.
Just fairly recently. No, you're 34, right? You're 35. Um, so yeah, it just happened. No, 32, maybe something like that. But
So what kind of take me through that? I mean, that's actually, we've interviewed a lot of people, and I've never talked with someone that has had a stroke. So talk to me
yeah.
about what that was like.
So I was live, live like this. I was with Butterfly Christine.
Oh, we love her. We've interviewed her twice.
Yeah. So I was with her. She was on my live. She was moderating and we were talking. And I have this whole uh conversation we had in my head. I don't remember. I remember the whole conversation. I don't gibberish. But apparently to everybody else it was gibberish, but I remember full-blown conversation. Um and my one of my arms was up like this and one of my ankles was turned kind of like this inside and I couldn't walk. And my face was drooped. So clear signs that I was having one.
Wow.
And my mom are when my mom saw what was going on, she boom called right away because her one of her family members had strokes,
Yeah, yeah.
multiple. Um, so she called. I got the medication within probably the first hour of my stroke, and honestly, that saved my life. I don't have any physical limitations from it. I just
Okay.
have like more inside stuff, like mental. My fibro started my memory. My fibro kind of flared up more. Um, my migraines have flared up more. So I've noticed that everything that I was weak in doing, or weak my body was in doing,
Yeah.
it attacked. It seemed like.
Could have been,
So
oh, could have been a lot worse. And we hear stories of people having a stroke and then they're losing, function, right, physically, right, because it having to relearn things. So,
everything. Yeah, you had to learn everything.
and so you didn't have to go through something that extensive, but it was still something that was a scare and has exacerbated your other conditions that you've been going through, and so it's something that you add in your story.
Yeah. And I actually not even that, we I just got out of the hospital. I don't know if you know that. About
Oh.
a week ago, I had a medical emergency where I was having full blown seizure like symptoms. They really don't know what's going on. First, they said it was serotonin syndrome, and then it was a med, and then it was muscle spasms, and now it's um, conversion theory. So they really don't know what the heck is going on with me.
Was your
Um,
body just kind of twitching and
so when I had my stroke, when they gave me the medication, um, my whole body went into a tick stroke. So my whole body was flailing. Um, and that's what it was doing when I was having this episode. And I finally got to lay down, and I didn't feel good that morning anyways.
Mhm.
And I finally laid down, and that's when the convulsions started. And my mom called 911, and she's like, I think she might be having another stroke, but she's talking. And I was talking. I wasn't, I, I made sure myself was talking, because I'm like, I'm not going to go down this easy. And I'm going to keep talking.
Yeah,
Because that was the biggest thing that really bugged me, was I only could say I'm sorry when I had my stroke. That's all
really.
I. Mm-hmm. And I couldn't give any information. My husband had to give all the information. I couldn't say anything. It was just, I'm sorry. And I didn't have any control over what my body was doing. They had to put me to sleep probably twice in that. And then um I only spent, believe it or not, I only spent a day, and well, a night in the hospital. um they you know how stingy they are with pain when you come and say you're in pain. um because of my body was so over exertive with the tick stroke, my fibro started flaring up. And we all know, as chronic pain patients, pain meds are very hard, and they don't want to give you anything in the hospital anymore. Um, I got discharged, believe it or not, I got discharged from the ICU, not to a floor, to my house.
Really?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I
Wow.
I begged them and pleaded with them and begged them to not send me home. Please don't send me home. Please don't send me home. I don't want to go home. I'm not ready to go home.
Then they.
Yep.
Oh, I'm sorry. That must have been scary upon scary for you.
Yeah. Yeah, it was scary, having my family watch it too. I mean, my
Yeah.
mom was right there, my dad was right there, and so was my husband. But not only that, was I don't even know how many people were watching. You know,
Yeah.
so
The live. Yeah.
yeah. And I it's it's hard. Um, so I still have some, like, memory issues. My memory issues are getting worse. Um, but you know, and then this little spat of whatever it is. And, just living with fibro and trying to control that and trying to control my migraines, which are are even 10 times harder to control.
Yeah.
So,
How long have you lived with chronic migraines?
chronic, I've had migraines my whole life, but they've always gone away, and we've never had to be so invasive in my
Hmm.
um, medications for them. Um, and I've lived with migraines most of my life, but these migraines are not to be played with. These are like the real deal. These will make you sick. These will disable you. These
Yeah.
I can't work anymore because of them. Um so it's you learn how to live with it. Um you learn how to what's the word for it?
Well, cope with it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and how you just go through your day, and you can't, I mean, I spend a lot of my time in my room because it's, not a lot of light down here. When I lived upstairs, the drapes were always closed. Um, the lights were always off. Everything was always dark. And so now down here, it's dark too, because I don't have a choice in that matter, or else I will get triggered by light. I've suffered from depression most of my life. It's in my family. My dad has it. My mom has it. So it's most of my life, and anxiety too. Most of my life. Um, it's a monster to not be messed with, you know, and it's it's sad that you watch some of our our community go through things that they shouldn't go through, and like the depression and the not wanting to be here,
Yeah.
because they're not getting the right treatment, or they're not getting this, or they're not getting that. And I struggled with that for a while. I had my own mishap for a little bit where I just didn't want to be around.
Oh,
And
I'm so sorry.
you know, but it is what it is, I mean, it sucks, but at the same point, like, I can say to my kids when I have kids, honey, I defeated that. I'm a better person because of that matter. I'm a better person. I had to go through that in order to figure out who I was and who I
Yeah.
truly was. Um, and it's not a pretty thing to go through, but it's also, some people just have to go through it. It's hard to just get out of bed, as we all know. Um, and you experience with your wife, that it's just hard to do anything nowadays. I you know I there are days where I can get dressed myself. I can do some stuff by myself. Then
Hmm.
there are also days where I need this one's help over here to do that kind of stuff, to get dressed, to go to the grocery store, to uh, be a normal person. Um, and now I have a nurse now that comes out and helps me a little bit too. So
Oh,
since my tremors, they have finally agreed to give me a nurse. So
oh,
it's
that's good.
nice. Yeah. Unfortunately, they only can come out like 3 times, and then they have to go bye bye.
Yeah.
That's insurance for you. Um,
Well, at least, I mean, it's interesting because a lot of insurances cover that kind of benefit, but maybe people haven't looked into it, right? Is that something that was fairly easy to kind of get arranged to get that care?
Yeah, actually, it was. I was surprised how easy it was. My mom was a lot harder to get arranged because she had a heart attack and she also has fibro. Hi, hadn't. So they with her case, it was a lot harder. Mine, I probably got a nurse within a day.
Really?
So I think it just depends on what institution you go to, what or what your doctor orders. Don't be embarrassed to ask for help. Like I'm
Mhm.
always embarrassed to ask for help. I'm always embarrassed to ask my husband for help. Um and but I knew going into the hospital that I was probably going to come out and I needed help. And um convincing them because I'm so young to because I wasn't ready to go home yet. In my eyes, I wasn't. Um, and they were ready to push me out. So I asked to, is there like some compromise we can work out here, And they're like, well, with your age, you really won't be accepted into a rehab. And I said, all right, is there any way I can get like a nurse, and physical
Mhm.
therapy to come to my house?
Yeah.
So the doctor agreed to do that. And that, yes, at 34, did I ever think I was going to have a nurse? No.
Yeah. Yeah.
No.
Part of the plan, right?
No, that was not part of the plan. I mean, and it's very shocking, but it's also very uh like a fresh air where you can kind of breathe a sigh of relief
Yeah.
to know that you're you're kind of being listened to somewhat, and that you're now that the doctors can look back on your notes and go, oh, you're not making the stuff up. Okay, well, yeah, you feel that way. All right.
Yeah.
And they can keep track of that. And that's kind of where I am feeling more listened to, is now that they'll be able to see all that and track all that. The first visit was just to get me through all the paperwork, and then I haven't had a second visit yet, so I'm still kind of I'm probably going to have that either tomorrow or Saturday. They do come on weekends too.
Hmm.
Um, and I don't know what they do. I think they just kind of make sure that everything's okay, and kind of your meds are good. You're doing what you need to do for your daily tasks to make sure you're doing okay. Listen, sit down and listen to them. Don't think they're faking it. Don't they're not. They're not faking it. They're not faking getting out of bed. They're not faking any of that. Just sit down and listen to them or talk to them, and you see something different in their eyes, or you see something different in their patterns of daily, but don't point it out, kind of, gently, hey, are you okay, kind of thing. Just listen.
Exactly what you just said.
Hey, Andy. How
And
are
any
you?
husband that doesn't listen, you're failing your wife.
Yeah. So he's been a godsend for me. um I couldn't ask for a better man. He's really gone above and beyond of any man would have ever gone. So it's it's just don't don't be that husband where you go, oh, you're just sitting there not doing anything, or um, you're too lazy, or you're, that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
That's where you can get in trouble. That's where the marriage can get really kind of swooped up and, and not work anymore, because then that person doesn't believe that you believe them, and then that just gets into a nasty cycle.
Just show them you care, right? Just kind
Yeah,
of
show me
doesn't
you
be.
care, because in the real world we don't have that, you know. In our sanctuary, we need that. We need that support system,
The
to
stability.
the stability, to be able to kind of rest and get our energy up, so that we can go deal with what's outside, and so that we can deal with the negativity of, oh, you're lazy or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
out there and not in here.
Well, what would you say that you have? What's your hope for to do for others?
My hope is, well, for everybody to get along, but um
World peace for
yeah,
sure.
well, that too. But just, my hope is for people with chronic illnesses to be heard, and to be listened to, and not be judged by doctors and hospital, um just for us to have a voice and feel like we have a voice, because there are times where I know I don't feel like a voice. I have a voice. I know my mom doesn't feel like she has a voice. Um, and I know there's a lot of chronic pain patients that feel like they don't have a voice, because they're not listened to, and they're not um, heard at all costs. And so when you start feeling like you're heard and listened to, and uh, everything else, then you feel like, okay, maybe this life might not be so bad. You might get help. You might be a little better. You might be not so depressed anymore. We're talking about having kids.
Wow.
Yeah. That's a big, that was the biggest thing I got when I came home.
Yeah.
Was, all right, uh, lightning doesn't strike
Twice.
twice or three times, you know. You only get so lucky, or God blesses you only so many times. Um, so I'm at that point of, all right, in a couple years we're gonna start a family. A little scary, just a little, but I've got three little god kids that I love and adore, and I want them to have, playmates too.
Yeah.
Um, Even though they have playmates, still it would be just cute for them to have, a second generation of kids playing together, so
Yeah.
it would be kind of cute. So, but
Guys are.
yeah, no, that's my biggest thing. I would love to be able to go horseback riding again. It's just so hard um with my migraines and my fibro. I probably rode till I was probably 14 or 15.
Mm-hmm.
Here, wait on. It's getting dark in here. And then um then I had to stop, and I missed that. That was my therapy.
Yeah.
I mean, I have therapy, but that was my summer therapy, where I just would go out and just ride and not worry about anything, and just,
Oh wow.
yeah, it was very nice. It was very um I loved it. I miss it
Yeah.
so much.
And talk about doing something for yourself, right? That.
Yeah. Or getting massages. I know there's a lot of people, in fibro, is everybody's different in each fibro case.
Mm-hmm.
But at least for me and my mom, we love our massages. Massages are like our best friends. Um, and it's a lot of money, but it's worth it. And especially if you use Young Living oils, that's even better.
Ooh, we love Young Living.
I've lived with it my whole life. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and I've watched my um my mom deal with it and then my grandma deal with it. You know, my grandma didn't even know. She was diagnosed everything under the sun
Mm-hmm.
before they even knew what fibro was. And it was very hard for her to get a diagnosis of fibro.
There's 3.5 billion people around the world that have that live with chronic pain, and the suicide rate is just way too high. That's associated with people that live with chronic pain, and we really
Yeah,
try to help bring that down, so that people feel like that's the answer, right? Is that forget this?
yeah. And I struggled with that for a
Yeah,
little bit. And that probably was my darkest days. Um, just because I gave up. You know, I was done. I threw in the towel. You know, my mom just had her heart attack at that point, and it just became too much stress, and it
yeah,
I was done. I I was done, and I'm happy. I'm still here. I can say I'm still here.
we
Uh,
are too.
but I don't want I don't want to see other chronic pain patients struggle with that. You know, I know it happens, and I know it's a lot more happens than we would like it to. Um, but at the same point, it's a stigma that we don't talk about.
Yeah, yeah.
Um,
But we're changing that.
I hope so. You know,
Well,
I
you're part
really
of
hope
it.
so.
You're part of it.
Right? Yeah. Honey, would you have anything advice wise for husbands?
Listen very well, because the fun part is, even though they're in pain, they can make your life a living hell.
Yeah. So, I
Just give
he
them the time so that they're feeling the important. You don't have to try to fix it, right? Just spend.
No, you don't. That's not the thing. Is it's not necessarily fixing it. It's more of the I'm heard.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's and him too, you know, him he feels like sometimes when he gets to the doctor's office with me, he's not heard also because he gets that stigma put on him also. You
Yeah,
know? And that's another thing that is
Be active in your partner's health when it comes to that, because it can be very detrimental, mentally, physically, all the above.
and it can be very detrimental on your marriage
Mm-hmm.
if you don't know how to approach it. And you know, luckily I grew up in a household that I knew how to approach it, because of my mom. And my dad is very, very good with my mom. Um, so I knew how to make a marriage work with chronic pain because I saw it.
mm,
And now I know there's some people that don't see that. You know, I know there's some people that get a chronic pain uh, diagnosis and they didn't live like that.
yeah,
So um, sometimes it's harder, you know, to make a marriage work when you don't see that, where, you know, you see how to make it work with chronic pain.
yeah,
And that's the one thing that a lot of people struggle with is, and I noticed that a lot on like message boards and stuff. Oh, my husband doesn't listen to me. Oh, my husband is saying I'm faking it. Oh, my husband is this. Oh, my husband is that. Oh, my husband is this. Oh, my husband is that. I see that a lot more than I would like. a lot more than I would like.
At 21, I blew my lower back out.
Oh, okay.
I have 2
Oh,
mouths with bulging discs and one that's herniated. So I know what it feels like to have the constant pain
so you're living with it.
with it. So it's a lot different when you can. It's not just an understanding of it. You know what they're going through.
Yeah, you can empathize with them.
Because there's days I don't want to get out of bed.
Yeah, yeah,
There's days I don't want to go to work just because how painful it is.
yeah.
I work in a warehouse. It's physical labor. My lower back is fried at the end of the day.
Are
My
you
knees are
okay?
shot.
He's very well good, so he's very supportive. I've learned over the last couple months is to advocate for myself. You know, because I know my mom, bless her heart, mom, I love you. Um, she's not gonna be here for my whole life, you know. And either is him, either is my dad, or either is this one over here. But is to advocate. Um, and especially if you don't feel like you're being listened to by a doctor, call and complain. That's what I do. I mean, at least I do it. It sometimes doesn't work, sometimes backfires, but before that was how I got the nurse. Is I called the patient rep and they basically put their foot down and said, "Well, she doesn't feel comfortable going home."
Not to be let them push you away from this or that, because at the end of the day, that is your right to have to be heard, looked at, and everything. But don't let them discourage you from wanting this or that. Now, can you get certain things because of regulations? Yes and no. But you gotta be really careful with what you're asking of. But don't push it to the point where now they just red flag you for everything.
Mm-hmm.
But make a mental note to them. I'm not gonna sit here and just let you push me around. Sorry.
When I had my doctor, she saw all this coming like from a mile away, and she retired before because just writing one prescription of pain meds
Mm-hmm.
was probably 6 or 7 pages of paperwork
Oh
a
wow.
day. So she was like, I'm done. I can't do this
Not.
anymore. Don't be afraid to reach out to anybody. You know, don't be afraid to reach out to Rex or Nell. And don't be afraid to reach out to the people that are commenting on their videos or that they follow. Um, because most of them have chronic pain.
Yeah.
And, I mean, I luckily lived in a 3 generation house. So I knew what it was. And I know there's some people out there that don't. And I know that I was very fortunate into living like that. Um, so it's being um that's pretty much for me is reach out. Don't feel alone. You know, when you feel alone is when your mind starts playing tricks on you and you start going into that. I don't want to be here anymore.
Yeah.
I don't
Yeah.
want to do this anymore. I don't, all this. Um, so I think reaching out and finding your resources, and finding people that have the same symptoms that you have or the same diagnoses that you have. I can't tell you how many friends I have that are fibro girls. And honestly, they are my rocks because they know what I'm talking about and they know what I'm going through.